What's up, everybody? It's Kyle, also known as the Panda Man, back with another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. Beautiful day out here. Can't believe it's June. Still in the 40s in the morning here. Beautiful, though. Beautiful. Got the pups lying over there. Bear's doing well. He had his third surgery. Because he had two to put the pins in. They had to redo it. And he got him out Friday. Been massaging his leg, get him some movement, rehab him just like rehab myself with my knees and any other injury. We had a great weekend. A couple things before we dive into what I want to go over with you guys. A couple people have planted the seed in my head. Man, you'd see your definition a lot more if you shaved your chest. Now, I had not shaved my chest and belly, my torso, since the COVID of 2020, that era. Actually, that's when I started growing out my beard, too. And I can't foresee the beard ever leaving, but time will tell. I feel like it's a part of me. The reason I stopped shaving, I shaved for so many years. It's 2020, so for 20 years, probably before I even started competing. And then I had to keep up with it. Then it got old, and I tried regrowing my chest hair and all that a couple of times prior, but it would get so itchy, like unbearable. There was a Seinfeld episode about that too, when he shaved his chest, and he's just the itching drives him insane. So I made it through like that 2 or 3 week period, and I was like, I'm going, man. But I shaved it off for the summer, and I tell you what. You see a lot more definition. I'll post some pictures later of my 6-week personal fat shredder protocol, the results I got, which were pretty amazing. So that's cool, really cool. Now what else do we got? Arms too, right? There has been a lot of questions, so I'm going to go over insights into the Panda Diet. You know, the more I do this, the longer I practice it, the more I read, experiment, the more I try to update it, right? Or I figure out, okay, that's actually how that is working. I knew that was happening, but how did it actually work? I'll tell you how the sugar diet has benefited that. My thoughts on the sugar diet, I've been getting tons of questions on that. And Mark is a good friend of mine. And I'll tell you flat out, I think it's awesome. We'll dive a little bit into that. Then I'm going to go over to Ripped Ads. What is a Ripped Ad? I'm launching it for the first time online. I've been running it at my gym for 12 years now, multiple times a year. It's transformed many, many dads. So I'll go over what is a Ripped Ad and tell you a little bit about that program for any of you dads out there that don't live locally that want to participate for the 6 weeks. Now, a couple things I want to share with you that with the Panda Diet. Right, so obviously I did not invent fasting. Fasting's been around forever. The Bible mentions it many times, many other religious texts talk about fasting. I put my unique twist on it, and that was just experimentation, all the way leading up to that, realizing what did work, what did I enjoy in the past, what can I put with this principle. Right, so I look at the fasting as a principle. All the other stuff out there are like, they're strategies that can fit within the Panda Diet. To me, the fasting is essential. Like, I reserve the right to change my mind at any time as I learn more, but I don't foresee myself ever coming off of this. You know, I've been 6+ years now on the Panda Diet. You can't diet for that long, so it's a principle. And some of the mechanisms at play within it are what they were seeing with the sugar diet. So of course I'm going to be experimenting within my Panda Diet protocol. I already have been, but just going to add a little tweak I'll tell you about. And that's how I learned the best, right? I do it. What happened? Okay. Worked, didn't work, worked, refine it, start teaching it. And that is to me the best way. Now, I'll tell you before I kind of go over some of the stuff I have sitting next to me, and hopefully this gets you thinking a little bit more, questioning what you've been led to believe about nutrition. Right, like that's a big thing. What's up, Tom? Thanks for the likes, buddy. But it'll get you questioning. And this all ties together, right? Like all this stuff, conspiracies in the world, tie into what I always believed, being in this field now for 27 years. Started at a very young age. It was a passion. Realizing that the message that's put out there a lot about nutrition and health is not out there. If it's come from the mainstream and just regurgitated, like so much of the information is, it's not designed to make you healthy. I know it may come as a shock to a lot of people, but that doesn't fit the model. Everything's driven, right? What drives everything? Where's the money? The control mechanism. To really keep that in mind. And hopefully you just start to question some things if you're new to listening to me, whatever it is. Or maybe you've been listening to me for a while. Then just keep your mind open. That's how I've lived my life. That's why I'm not married to any ideas. Like I say, even with the fasting, if for some reason I find there's something else better than what I do with that one day, then I will switch my mind. And I'll be open with that about you guys. Now here's another thing too. I'm sitting outside. I'll show you guys that are watching at this old beat up table under one of our trees. And I'm doing it live, so I always believe in leverage. So this is more of a success principle. Shoot it live on Facebook or whatever platform I'm doing. And then I record it on my phone, guys. You don't have to overcomplicate stuff. Night studios are cool, all that. They're great. I have one with Haas Media. And you use that stuff here and there. But if you have something you want to work on, don't overcomplicate it. Just start. Just start. It was funny. Last week I was on a big podcast. It'll be out in about a month. It's one of the top 20 podcasts. My buddy Kelly, Harder Than Life. We become friends about a year and a half ago. And he's just a great success, like a physical specimen. Wanted to talk about fasting and my mindset on certain things. And I'm sitting outside over there with the bamboo behind me. He gets on and said, "Where are you? You don't have a studio?" I said, "I'm sitting outside, man. Got my bamboo behind me." And that's how you got to roll sometimes. Now, thoughts on the sugar diet off the top. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I'm good friends with Mark. I was on his podcast last year, and we hung out, and we're in touch pretty frequently. I think the reason we get along so well is he's like me in a lot of the ways where science can be useful, but so many people use science as a crutch. And they stay confined. Well, the science says this. Well, science says that because that's what the science studied. Those that know that science is always behind the people that are ahead of the curve. Always. Always. So Mark, whether you want to call it bro science or whatever, I take that as a complimentary term. It's just like the term conspiracy theorists. They put that term out there to shut down any narrative that was going against the JFK assassination at the time. Wait a minute, that didn't make sense. That couldn't have happened. No, you're a conspiracy theorist. The CIA coined that term. And I think the term bro science, at least in my mind, has come from the establishment of health and fitness that doesn't want anybody going against what they say. Calories are king. Protein is the best. All this stuff. So I think what Mark and Cole are doing is fantastic. Not only from a physiological standpoint, but just going against the grain. And you get all these people out there, it's funny to watch them melt down, these people that are so hardcore carnivore and protein that they've got money on the line, and now this is going against them. And you have this cognitive dissonance. They can see it's working, see the results people are getting, but they refuse to move from their flag that has been planted. Instead of saying, well, you know what? Let me try that. Let me see. I'm going to be having a YouTube that comes out soon about, I don't know if I'm going to have 5 or 7 ways that you can spot a fake fitness expert. And I think it's going to be pretty entertaining, but highly useful too, because there's so much confusion out there. There's so much noise. You get these people that might look great, but hey, they were probably, by and large, born with that genetic gift. You always got to keep that in mind. I always say, like, Michael Jordan can't teach you how to be Michael Jordan. It was a gift he had. Now, his mindset was off the charts. But unfortunately, in fitness, you get a lot of people that might have abs and they're muscular. Oh, I look good, so let me teach people what I do. Meanwhile, they haven't really tried anything outside the box. It's not everybody, but there's a lot in this field. So with the sugar diet, I think it's fantastic what these guys are doing. Now, when I was going over the Panda Diet with Mark and he was using that to great success, he didn't fully utilize what I was telling him. And if you go back and listen to that podcast, which was awesome, it was just a great time, I tell him in there, guys, look, you don't need to count calories. What I found doing this through tracking initially, and that was my background, right, by weighing everything, everything's measured, everything's down to a T. You can't out-eat it. You need to feed the beast. This is how you work on metabolic rate. But now I'm getting answers from what some of these guys are talking about, and got this book. I just heard of this guy the other day. I always like to give shout-outs to people that are doing great work. Joe, where are we at? Joe Binley. So it's an ebook, but I have it printed out by like analog. Joe Binley. I'm like, okay, this guy gets it. He gets it. He experiments. You know, I just love the way he does stuff. Experiments, which I always believe. Experiment on yourself. Just keep experimenting. And do stuff. That's the only way you're really going to know the truth. So I'm just into this initially. I really wanted to research FGF21 more. And I believe this is a large part of how the Panda Diet works in terms of putting other pieces to the puzzle that I didn't quite have, but I knew that, okay, this is working this way, and I've tested it. And to me, the results are enough, but I always like connecting the dots too. So Panda Diet 2.0, which will be out late summer, is going to have a lot of cool new stuff in it, different protocols, the dry fasting that I've been working on, like today's dry fast through tomorrow night, right? I'll be taking that right through. So FGF21, let me just tell you a little bit about that. Fibroblast growth factor 21, it's a hormone produced in the liver. So I always talk about liver health with my clients. This is incredibly important. There's liver cleanses that we do. Your liver, besides your brain, does the most functions in the human body. It's the main fat-burning organ, if you will. We want to stimulate the liver. So I've always taught fruit first, giant bowl of fruit. Some people don't have the eating capacity to have a giant bowl. That's okay. But fruit first. I knew that it stimulated the liver. I knew it boosted metabolic rate. Getting this big bolus of sugar right out the gate at your meal. But now you've been in this insulin-sensitive state majority of the day or the week, and it compounds. This, FGF21, is amazing. It's got a dual role in fat metabolism, glucose regulation, and muscle preservation. Sounds like what happens when you do the Panda Diet. Now, this can be stimulated when you're eating straight sugar. You got to keep fat and protein very low. So we'll talk about that in a second. So just a couple more things within this without getting too nerdy on you guys. It enhances glucose uptake in the muscle. So I've been telling people with the Panda Diet, and again, these are very similar. You know, I think the sugar diet would do great, and I've been testing it in my own ways before this, not doing it exactly like this. On and off, and even during my fat shredder where I would take protein way down. There were a couple weeks where I didn't have any animal protein, or very, very minimal, besides like low-fat cottage cheese. But animal meat, and you'll notice when you start doing that, right? My digestion's on point, but it's superior then. This is where you have what I call like the ghost poops, right? Where you wipe and there's nothing there. This is an ultimate sign of health, and the digestion doesn't lie. So that'll be in Panda Diet 2.0. Key functions of FGF21. So enhances glucose uptake. Getting back to that. I tell people when they eat like this, or they're finding this with the sugar diet, in a certain mechanism, if you set up the hormonal system right of the body, insulin sensitivity goes up, calorie partitioning favors the muscle. Meaning it's going to go stock up the muscle glycogen, muscle cells, not much time or not much hormonal play that's going to allow it to go to fat gain. And I get the concern, I'm going to lose muscle doing what you teach. Look, I haven't lost any muscle. I sent a picture, again, I'll post it later, my transformation into 6 weeks. Now, I wasn't in bad shape starting it, right? By any means. But I sent one to one of my best friends the other day. He wanted to see. He said, geez. He goes, man, you're bigger than when you competed. And I am right there. I mean, I have to bring up my legs a little bit more. I'm blessed with great leg development, but I can take that to the next level for sure. Point being, though, when I shaved my chest and everything last week, I was like, whoa, man, my chest really developed, my chest and my midsection over the past 5 years. Because you couldn't see the definition, right? The way that you can see now. So anyway, FGF21 increases metabolic rate, prevents unnecessary fat storage, supports mitochondrial efficiency. This is something that happens in the Panda Diet. This is part of why the metabolic rate goes up through long-form fasting alone. Doesn't happen when you're doing a traditional diet. And I always explain that when your body recognizes food as the main energy source because of the frequency, metabolic rate's going to go down. You cut, it comes down. You cut, it comes down. It's a different metabolic pathway, setting yourself up for failure. Activates brown fat, okay? We have brown fat within our body. So when people say they're like 2% body fat, it's impossible because you have brown fat that you can't really tap into as far as losing. But when brown fat is activated, like for example, you have brown fat in your upper back, one of the areas, enhances fat burning potential beyond just calorie restriction. So again, we know this, that calories are far down the list, guys. They're far down the list. Dr. Jack Cruz talks about it, and that guy's brilliant. Talks a lot about light. Everything has to do with light, right? Another thing that I kind of pieced in and came clear to me when I started wearing colored glasses, or why I started doing that, was like, man, everything just feels better. So you have that aspect of it. Now, a little bit more about FGF21. We'll go over a little bit of protein, and I'll tell you guys about little tweaks I've been doing with my personal protocols before I unleash them to the masses. I have a group that's on week 5 now, going through the Fat Shredder Panda Challenge. We've been testing a lot of stuff. People were crushing it, getting great results. People that were stuck, men that want to get rid of their bellies, women that have hit plateaus, that are in perimenopausal. And I always tell them too, like, look, if you're stuck and you're a woman, what I do works. I've had a lot of women go through it, and they're shocked. Nothing else will work when you get to that stage if you're playing it the traditional way. You could diet your little tail off. And then it completely goes too against mind mapping and habit formation. So we always look at what can we actually form a habit around. If you can't form a habit around, don't do it. The sugar diet is a protocol. You're not going to do this forever. But how can you put it into your program potentially where you get the benefit of it? So that's what I'm currently doing before, again, I unleash it. Just like the dry fasting. My newsletter I just got shipped out for last month. It's all about dry fasting. And I've done a lot of it in the past. And I said, okay, well, how can I make this so people can do dry fasting weekly without just tanking with energy? Because you get into a longer dry fast, physically you're not going to feel the greatest, right? It's different than a water fast. But most people don't want to do a 2, 3, 4, 5 day dry fast. So how do we do that? So I've been doing in that realm It works in a lot of the same mechanism, suppressing things like PKA, protein kinase A, is a big one, and obviously insulin, trying to bottom that out. So now what I'm doing, I finished a fat shredder, 48-hour dry fast to start the week, and then boom, right into my feast. The other days I've been doing my OWAD, 1 water a day. It's not really 1 water, but I like to play on words there. It's one period of time, like a 2-3 hour chunk of time where you're getting all your liquids in for the day. So I've been testing that, really liking it. Okay, so now I'm getting a lot more dry fasting in throughout the week, right? It's sustainable. A couple more things, getting back to this, because I think that this is, it's just awesome. High protein diets can suppress key metabolic hormones, making it harder to stay lean long term. I've been saying this since I wrote the Panda Diet. Actually, since 2019. I wrote the Panda Diet in 2020. And in the book, if you have it, I talk about, guys, limit your animal protein consumption to no more than 3 days per week. It wasn't to become vegetarian. It had nothing to do with that. It was for health perspectives and realizing that, just like I teach people, insulin is the most anabolic hormone in the body. Well, guys, ladies, protein is very anabolic, animal protein. There's no question about that. I'm not debating that. You don't need nearly as much as you've been told. I used to eat 300 to 400 grams a day. Now, in a regular week, that would be like the max I would eat in a week. And it's not because I'm trying to stay away from it, but I kind of enjoy when I don't have animal protein. I feel a little bit better. And I think your body, like any drug, will get more usage out of the animal protein when you limit it. And then boom, let me have some, okay? But protein is anabolic. So women in particular, if you want to drop weight, take your protein way down. Because you got to take your fat down anyhow. Fat, it messes up a lot of stuff. You don't need to go consume a bunch of healthy fats if you got a lot of fat on your body. Everything you need, guys, is in the fat in your body. Your nutrients, all this stuff. You got to let it out, though. It has to be able to be accessed by your body to be used. But if insulin is constantly elevated, it stays trapped. And this is where internal starvation happens to people. And I know that will drive the fake fitness expert, PhD, carnivore cult nuts, and good. I'm glad about that. Low carb or ketogenic diets can impair glycogen replenishment, reduce exercise performance, and slow muscle growth. And low carb and keto are not the same thing. They can be, but keto is darn near impossible to carry out. Who is going to form a habit around that? Keto is about 95% fat. It's not carnivore. That is not keto. And last thing here, before I tell you a few more things about protein, a mixed diet of high protein, high fat, and moderate carbs can cause insulin resistance and unnecessary fat storage. Oh, what about that? So, I don't want to take too long. We're already going longer than usual. Let me tell you. One thing too, guys, this is part of why the Panda Diet is so powerful. Compliance is the science. The best diet is one that you can stick with. Like, way before all this, I've been being coached by some of the best minds in the world in fitness and nutrition for years. 2009 or 2008 is when I first hired Scott Abel. Scott was just love that guy. So good. Such a forward thinker. And, he really just had a big influence on me. But we'd always talk about that, and he would teach me, Kyle, it has to be functional and sustainable, whatever you do in nutrition. Can you do it anywhere, any setting, and can you theoretically do it forever? It's got to check both of those boxes. Again, with the sugar diet, it doesn't check both of those boxes. Use it as a protocol. Now, the way that I've been utilizing it in my own way is I took my fat way down, right? I talk about that in my fat shredder manual. Took my fat way down besides my cheat meals. Some days it's under 20 grams a day. But I'm consciously trying to limit that. Took my carbs even higher. I never shied away from carbs since I've been doing this. I think it's just stupid. Carbs have been vilified. But like tomorrow night, break the dry fast, guess what? It'll be more to high sugar, so my fruit and local organic honey, which is delicious. So I took the cottage cheese and the nuts out of my fruit bowl. And I realized I was doing that for like a year, and I said, oh, I'm not quite as lean as I was. I was still, my visceral fat's always very low, still below that 10 mark, which sounds crazy because I used to have to kill myself to get there to that level. But over the winter, right, over the past year, adding in fat because it tasted good and stuff that I like, and I always believe in micronutrients. And then also, obviously, Ainsley was born, and the hormonal shift that goes with that, and that's happening with each child, and you kind of sync up with your wife's hormones. And obviously didn't have this huge weight gain like I did with Braxton or Colty before I was doing this. Sleep was off. I was having a few too many beers on the weekend. And I'm not a big drinker, but it was in the winter, and I said, I enjoy it. So there's time and place. Everything goes in cycles. Nonetheless, so tomorrow night, I will do my fruit and honey. Devin's making a quinoa salad, right? So I'll have something like that. So it's not just straight sugar. I've got my pie fillings. I bought a couple of those. I'll eat that. There's no fat, straight carbs, a lot of good sugar. I've got candy corn, no fat, a lot of sugar, right? I'm going to test this a little more extreme, but that'll just be Tuesday night coming out of my dry fast. And the other nights, I will have protein, I don't want to say sparingly. Look, I love animal protein, guys. I love having a grass-fed burger, any good burger. Love it. But once you get the groove going and you start feeling great and looking great, you just kind of want to keep experimenting. You say, well, let me stay like this for the summer. Okay, let's talk a little bit about protein. I want to hit you guys with a little bit of Rip Dad stuff, and then I'm out of here because I got to keep creating other stuff. Now, this is a great book, too, Proteinaholic. Read this book in 2000. Colty was young. 2018, when I first read this book. Again, it went against everything I knew about nutrition and how, remember Charles Poliquin teaching me protein means of first importance. So everybody hammering protein. The science shows that animal protein actually causes disproportionately high insulin secretion compared to carbs. Beef raises insulin more than pasta. If you want to look up the study, it's Holt, Miller et al., 1997. I've been saying that for a long time, guys. People say, well, you can't break a fast the way you teach because it's going to spike insulin. Besides the point, you want to spike insulin when you break your fast the way I teach because you want to use the anabolic effect of insulin to your advantage for the muscles. We're not trying to limit insulin when we feast. But realize that when you're adding protein and a lot of fat into the equation, you're messing up a lot of hormonal stuff within your body. Now, the Panda Diet kind of covers that. It helps because of the hormonal profile you're in and that you put yourself in as a compounding effect, right? The more insulin sensitive you get over time. But just some cool stuff here, right? It's the cell's decreased ability to respond to insulin, okay? Insulin resistant. Protein raises insulin, which blocks its fat mobilization from the cell and causes consumed fat to enter the cell. Insulin resistance is due to fat toxicity to the muscle cell. We're told we got to have a lot of protein. What comes with protein? Fat. And we're adding a whole bunch of fat to our diet anyway, right? It's not smart. Think about it, right? Like, what is easiest to get converted into fat in your body? Not 100%, right? There are exceptions like medium chain, triglycerides and whatnot, but fat. Take the fat down, guys. One of the main factors causing fat to be collected in the muscle cells is inflammation. Protein is an amino acid. Raises acidity levels, and some called heme iron, H-E-M-E. Never know if I'm saying that word right, if it's hemi or heme. But heme iron. So just start thinking a little differently. Like, what else do I have in here? There was something else I wanted to show you guys. Once fat gets inside the muscle cells, it interferes with the cell's ability to develop new insulin receptors. Okay, what else here? Last one, too. Cortisol is a stress hormone, so I always teach that, right? It's not bad. It's been vilified. When it's chronically elevated because of psychological stress, lack of sleep, beating your body up too much with the wrong things like sitting too much, watching TV too much, eating the wrong types of stuff, is going to be elevated. But it counters insulin effects and raises blood sugar. If you ever do a workout and then give blood work, I always ask people, because I want them to connect the dots, will your blood glucose be higher or lower? They say, oh, lower. No. I've had this done multiple times. My blood work, it's higher, guys. Working out is a stress, right? And the cortisol will get that blood glucose level elevated to prepare you for this stress, even though most of it's psychological, by and large, throughout everyday life. Your body, from a mind map perspective, it doesn't matter if it's psychological or physical stress. Your body will increase cortisol, raise blood sugar, as quick energy for the big global muscles, your arms and your legs, so you can run or fight. Run or fight. So start thinking a little differently on that. Now, let me tell you guys, and I'll keep you guys updated. Like I said, a lot of new protocols with my OWAD and dry fasting sandwich will be in the Panda Diet 2.0. A lot of this just cool stuff. Like I said, I don't really, by and large, care so much what studies say. But if they validate what I've learned to be true as far as, okay, that's what I've seen, then good. But the reality math always trumps the science. Now, ripped ads, last thing, because we're going long today. It's already way over the time limit I usually do on these for you guys, because I want these to be easily consumable. Ripped ads is coming online. Been running this program for a long time at Newell Strength. June 23rd, taking 50 fathers throughout the world to do a 6-week program with me. It's got the training. The training protocol is awesome. There's stuff for at home with buckets and cinder blocks. There's stuff for at the gym. There's specific Panda Diet protocols for the ripped ads. Now, does ripped ad actually mean you have to get ripped? Not necessarily. Some people will never be ripped. That's okay. It's a mindset. It's knowing that you're optimizing your health. You're living a disciplined lifestyle when it comes to your body. Because then what happens? It carries over to every other part of your life. There's family-based lessons I'm going to be teaching about, part of the curriculum as far as dating everybody in your family. Developing core values for your family as the patriarch, the paternal figure, paternal patterns. You're the one that's setting the pattern. So all this stuff. And we want to see this physical transformation, because that's the gateway into the mind and the spirit. There's weekly lessons I teach on Zoom like I do in my programs. You have access to me. It's just going to be awesome. So if you're a dad, you'll be seeing the links. I'll be posting them. Certainly consider doing this. It would be the best investment you ever made. And it's totally affordable for anybody out there. I offer payment options for it and all that good stuff. It's only, right now, the early bird, it's only $4.99 for the 6 weeks, which is a freaking steal. That'll be going up once we cut the early bird off. And, you'll get a copy of the new Ripped Ads book that's coming out. Really good stuff. So if you're interested, hit me up. Thanks for the support, guys. I could talk about this stuff forever. I'll be making some more YouTubes on it. But again, I don't like to keep these too long. You guys have a great day. Thanks for the support as always. Any trolls that are going to comment, bring it. Thanks for your time and attention, trolls, and everybody else, of course. All right, guys, I will catch you later. That is a wrap.